I had an idea that came to mind the other day, and I kind of wanted to reiterate a few things on it. And that is, don't let like the top 0.1% of people give you advice in things. And let me explain why. Those top like 0.1% of people, and if we're talking about sports, we're talking about like real estate, business, whatever we're talking about, chances are those people had a fair bit of, whether you want to call it luck or just, it just chance worked out in their favor. They had that in their favor, and they also had raw talent. And what I mean by that is, if you think of sports specifically, and it's an easy allegory for me to make, there's a lot of guys who want to be, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of girls too, but lots of guys want to be professional athletes. Like, that's like the dream for so many people. I mean, when I was a kid, I was like, hell yeah, I want to be, an NFL star, an NBA star, those kinds of things. And obviously that didn't happen. And for the vast majority of people, it doesn't happen that way. Reason being is, even if you have the work ethic to match that goal, you do need a certain percent of just like innate talent. Some people aren't going to have that. It's just plain and simple. An easy way to point it out is, say you're a dude and you're 5'3", you're not going to be in the NBA. Plain and simple. No matter how good you are at handling, no matter how good you are at shooting, no matter what, you're not going to play in the NBA. That's just the way it is. If you're hearing that for the first time, it sucks, but it is what it is, And we have to keep this in mind, because so many people in positions where they are like that top 0.1% of people, they have a lot of social media, just comes with the territory. And so many of them spew bullshit advice to people. And it's like, well, you hear that advice and you think maybe they have a point, because look at where they are now. You don't get to the top easily, and that does bear some level of understanding. You can't just blow them off completely, but understand where they're coming from. There's a difference between someone having relative success and, let's say, being like a millionaire. And when I say millionaire, I don't mean like you literally have $1 million. You have a lot of millions of dollars and you can spend it somewhat freely. There are so many people like that, at least in the US, that we don't know about. And I'm sure they don't want to be known about. I wouldn't want to be rich and famous personally. But they've done a lot of things, I want to say the tried and true way. There is generic advice to be given by so many people, and it will work, but you also have to put in work. It's not just, if you're born, and I hate keep going back to the same thing, but let's say NBA. If you're born 7 feet tall and you are pretty good at shooting and dribbling, chances are you have a much higher percentage chance to be at least a college at least a college basketball player, because you were just born with qualities that work out in your favor. Someone who's, like I said, 5 feet something or whatever, it's not going to work out in the same way. You can't control those things. You can't control exactly how tall you are. I mean, you can eat healthy, and that's going to maximize your potential for growth, but you're not going to sprout another foot by, eating well and stretching. That's not a thing, So I know I'm talking about this a lot in the physical aspect, and that's because it's the most obvious way. And part of it is, I see so much fitness stuff, and there's a lot of people who are on gear. And when I say on gear, I mean they're taking steroids, and they give out a lot of advice. And some of the advice is good, some of the advice is bad. It's hard to know what is what, because you look at them and you're like, oh dang, like that dude is huge and shredded. And it's like, well, he must know what he's talking about, right? Because he looks really good. It's not always the case. There's a lot of dudes who have really good genetics one way or the other, and their advice can suck. You shouldn't just take their advice because of where they are, which does sound counterintuitive with a lot of what we understand as human beings, but it's true, you know. I've started to notice more and more that the people I want to take advice from are not average, but they're like between the top 0.1% and they're above average. And it's somewhere in that common ground that I think the good advice is. And it's because there's so many people who have like average genetics, average IQ, but because they do the right things in terms of, you know, they take the advice from people who know what they're talking about and they use it to the maximum way that they can, they get the best outcome for themselves personally. You know, there's going to be a lot of people who you can do everything perfectly, but if you just don't have the same genetics as someone or the same IQ as someone, you're not going to reach their level. And that's okay. You understand? It's not the end of the world to be, you know, not 0.1% of people. In fact, I personally would rather not be in that 0.1% because those people seem to be very famous, as far as I can tell at least. I don't really want to be famous, you know. You know, take this as you will, you know. Some of you guys might see me and hear what I have to say and be like, well, this guy doesn't even know what he's talking about, you know. Who is he to talk to me? Hey, fair enough. You don't have to listen to me. I'm just giving my 2 cents on the matter. And it does seem to be the case in a lot of situations, you know. Don't be stupid when you hear advice, you know. Don't just take it as God's word because of who it came from, okay? Run it through your mind, use some critical thinking, and actually understand what the person's trying to say, and maybe you might realize that person's an idiot. You know, it really does depend. So don't take anybody's word as perfect truth. You know, think about what they have to say, understand where they are in life, and go from there, okay? So that's all I got for you guys. That's what I'll leave you with. I appreciate you guys watching the video. I hope it's of use to you. If you like it, feel free to leave a like. If you dislike it, but let me know what I can improve on in the future. Subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time, we'll see you later. Take it easy.